Welcome to Equilibrium Echoes, the podcast where we delve into the transformative power of your inner world on your relationships. I'm your host, Alyssa Decker. Join me as we unlock the secrets of emotional equilibrium and dig deep into the tools and insights needed to foster healthier, more fulfilling relationships in ways that feel safe and authentic. Welcome back to Equilibrium Echoes. I'm your host, Alyssa Decker, and today I'm here with Shaté Hayes. She is the producer of The Purpose Post, and she is a storytelling coach who helps people tell better stories to themselves and to the world. And I love that part about to themselves because that is so critical. Today we're going to be talking about workplace transitions, career transitions, going into business for yourself, becoming self-employed, all the things work related, but more importantly, how we deal with all of the internal stuff that comes up when we're making workplace transitions, how we talk to ourselves, the stories we tell ourselves, how we show up in the workplace, all of that really goes back to our own emotional and internal health, doesn't it, Shaté?
Absolutely. 100. Our relationship with ourselves dictates everything. So yes.
Absolutely everything. So while today's conversation might be career focused, if you're not currently looking at making a career change, don't tune out because for all of us, this conversation is going to be relevant no matter what job we hold or what job we're transitioning to. So I want to start out with Shaté with a little bit of background about you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you started doing what it is that you do.
Yeah, I would say I have always loved stories, quite honestly, and didn't really, it's just kind of a part of me. Never really saw it coming into play professionally, but it's such a huge part of how I see the world and how I experience the world. I'm constantly reading books, watching documentaries, listening to stories. If we're having a meal, I want to know everything. Tell me the origin story of this. How did you get, why are you this way? And so it's just kind of who I am. And my first career, quite honestly, though, I was a professional dancer, choreographer, and I did tons of work with theater, and I adore theater, obviously for the storytelling, right? And so
Yeah.
that's kind of the first place I feel like it really surfaced, manifested in a way where I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. But then towards the tail end of my career, I did that for about 12 years or so. I got a master's in dance and became an adjunct dance professor and really started helping dancers launch their careers. There was not a lot of conversation about how to build a sustainable career as a freelancer, specifically as a freelance dancer, right? And so I'm out here trying to figure all this stuff out on my own. I was like, oh, there are things that my younger self needed to know, like how to save for taxes. Do I take every single job? How to command what I'm worth? How do I how to make this a sustainable thing and not like a hobby?
Right.
So I started doing that for a number of years, and that made way for me to transition into a corporate career in workforce development, where I was helping professionals from all industries sort of transition in their professional lives. And I so adore that work because there's this feeling that I had as a dancer when I finally decided to be one of like, oh my gosh, I made my dreams come true. This feeling, this sort of fulfillment, this pride in the work that I do. Everybody deserves to feel that. Everyone deserves to have the sense of pride and purpose in their work. How can I help more people feel that? How can I help more people experience that? And so that work that I did in the corporate space with career programs for about 6 years, I adored that, but then also wanted to work. I just wanted the freedom, the autonomy. I didn't want office politics or the constant threat of layoffs or like toxic work cultures. Like I was kind of wore thin with that. And so now I'm back on my own, sort of incorporating all the pieces of my work into, helping people experience a sense of pride and purpose and freedom in their professional lives and, how that can impact their total lives as well.
I love that. And I think it's so interesting how pretty much every single guest that I have on the show is where they are because of just sort of how their lives have evolved and their personal experience brought them to the place where they are now. And that's really part of our story, isn't it? Like that's how our stories grow and they develop, and this is why we look back at our lives 20 years ago and think, I had no idea that it was going to look like this or turn
Yeah.
out like this, for
Yeah.
better or worse, right? That can be a positive or a negative, depending on how we look at it. So how do you define, you said to me before we started recording that you help people tell better stories to themselves and to the world. Tell me more about that. What does that mean to you?
You'd be surprised at, or let me rephrase that. I was surprised at when the folks that come to me, I get a lot of folks that come to me and say, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what my purpose is, right? There's a whole other conversation we can have about how to take the pressure off of purpose because people feel like, oh, I don't know what this one grand assignment that I'm supposed to do on this earth is, and so I must have no purpose. And so there's so much despair that comes along with that idea. So people come to me and they're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do next. I don't even know what my purpose is. And there's like really a lot of uncertainty and loss around that. What I found surprising though was as I started to get to the business of helping them like reflect and uncover like what they could do next based on their strengths, their interests, their, uh, the things that matter to them, there is so many folks who actually do know what they want to do. They just won't give themselves permission to do it, right? There's some sort of fear. There's some sort of like, am I going to fail? Is it going to work out? How will I pay my bills? People are going to think I'm crazy. There's all this sort of internal talk. Or when we've decided on the thing and it's time to start telling the story of what you used to do, people want to like sort of, let me not tell this one part of my story that, for whatever reason, there's some shame around it. Maybe I didn't finish college. Maybe I didn't get this promotion I thought I wanted. Maybe I was demoted in a restructuring. All of those stories, we've made meaning of them for whatever reason. And the meaning of those stories, unfortunately, for the overwhelming majority of people that I encounter, is that it somehow means I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy of the thing that I want, or I won't be able to attain it, or if I get it, I'm going to fumble it again, right? And so it's like, how do we tell a different story to ourselves about what is possible, about what you can accomplish, about what you're worth, about that? Actually, quite honestly, if you don't get another degree, because I get a lot of high achieving folks who are like, let me get another credential, a skill, a course, or something. Let me just stack it's like, no. Like, what if you could believe that everything that you have right now is enough? And so like, how do we change that story so that we can operate differently in our professions?
Yeah, because if you don't believe what you have now is enough, getting another degree isn't going to change that.
No,
You're going to find yourself with another degree and still feeling like you're not enough or you're inadequate in some way, because that's not really the root of that belief.
Yeah, that's a manifestation of you trying to like prove something to somebody or to yourself, or
right,
trying to prove your enoughness, your worthiness, when I think we all have some work to do around that, like not feeding into that.
Right, for sure. Like I think probably everyone can relate to that on some level, even if it's not around your career. In some aspect of your life, I think most of us have work to do around that, for sure.
Yeah.
So what do you find are the top things, the top, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 things that keep people really stuck career-wise and keep them from making the changes that they really want to make?
Yeah, I think I love this question. I think it's a little bit of fear, not a little bit, a lot of fear. And fear, like the things that I just mentioned in terms of confidence, maybe, poor management has like bruised their confidence and they don't feel like it's possible or that they can do it. They're afraid they're going to have to start over. And so let me just stay where I am. They're afraid of the unknown, like the devil I know is better than the devil I don't know. They have real responsibilities, like they take care of loved ones, family, kids, right? And they're like, I can't afford to take a pay cut or do something that I don't know if it's going to work out. Or it could be that, maybe they have a dream and they actually are willing to take the risk, but then loved ones who are well-meaning are like, why would you do that? You got this good, I don't know, government job or insert whatever thing here. Don't be crazy. Like, get your heads out of the cloud. Get your head out of the clouds, right? There's all this it's chatter. So there's all this chatter, whether it comes from inside or whether it comes from the folks around you. Doesn't always have to be a hater, but like literally someone can mean you well and still kind of keep you stuck because of their own, either they're trying to protect you or it's their own fears that they're projecting onto you. All of those things can kind of keep us exactly where we are.
Yes. So what I heard you say there is there's all of those things I think that you said can kind of be placed in two categories. Either the conversation that's going on in your head
Mm-hmm.
or what the people around you are saying,
Yep.
which feeds into the conversation going on in your head.
Yep.
Okay, so someone's going, okay, I can totally, I'm identifying with this conversation. Like, I've thought about this career change thing for 10 years, 5
Yeah.
years, whatever. Um, where do they start? They're like, okay, I'm stuck. I've been stuck for a long time. Where do I even start
Yeah.
to start moving toward what I want?
I would say self-assessment. You got to audit there first because one mistake that people make are like, especially if the work situation that they're in now is not that great, they just look for anything and they think, "Ooh, just changing the job or the circumstance is going to give me the relief that I'm after." But so often when you're running from something instead of running towards something, you end up jumping out of the frying pan into the fire because you haven't done the
Yeah.
reflection to understand what is it that I don't like about this situation? What actually isn't working for me? Is it the values of the company? Is it the leadership style of my manager? Is it, like what is the thing here? Is it that I've just outgrown it and I'm ready for something new? Is it actually that I don't even want to work for someone anymore? I want to do my own thing, but I don't know how to do it, right? And so I have personally done that myself where I was like, I knew I was ready to go back on my own, but I was too afraid to. So I took another job and actually had friction the entire time because I really didn't need to be there to begin with. I needed to trust myself and
Right.
go out on my own. And so I would say there, first, do some reflection. What is it that is not working for you? What would you like to be true about your circumstance? Get an understanding of what your strengths are, what you want to be doing, and what it could look like before you start to then make the next steps from there.
Okay. So I do this
Mm-hmm.
self-reflection, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
kind of start to figure out what it is I really want versus what
Yeah.
is everyone telling me, what's holding
Mm-hmm.
me back. But I think a lot of people still get really stuck when it comes to the actual taking the leap,
Mm-hmm.
writing the resignation letter, taking the steps to start their own business, whatever that looks like. Talk to me about that internal, like, because I think for most people, it's not the practical thing. It's not the, like, how do I write a resignation letter? It's not, how do I write a resume to find a new job? It's not even like, I don't know how to start my own business.
Yeah.
Um, it's that internal thing that keeps them stuck, right? So talk to me about this moment where we're kind of standing on the precipice here. We're going, okay, like I think I want to do this. I think I'm ready to do it. I'm kind of drowning out the external noise.
Yeah.
How do I actually step off the cliff?
Oh my goodness. This is a whole conversation in and of itself, I would say.
I know, I know. Give
So,
me the 60-second, no, not 60 seconds. Let's take a couple minute summary.
so there are two things I would say about this moment. First of all, well, maybe three. So the first I would say is congratulations for getting there because a lot of people don't even allow themselves to get to that place. So congrats to you. That's the first thing I'd say. Second thing I'd say is that oh crap, don't lose it. It's going away. The thing I was gonna say in terms of here it is. It came back. Thank you. The thing I was gonna say is also what I think will determine if someone actually does take the leap, the step, or whether they don't, because there can be a lot of folks who do a lot of talking about what they're gonna do and not actually move. I think it has to be that the pain of staying where you are outweighs the pain of the unknown, of going out to like what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so for me,
Oh, yeah.
for whatever reason, it's a gift and a curse, I got to be honest. It's always the case for me that it is way more painful to be stuck in situations that feel icky and not aligned, misaligned, and no peace. I hate that feeling. I just like, ugh. And so
Yeah.
literally I can take a step and be crying and scared and like annoyed and like I don't know what's going to happen, but that is way better to me than being in this ickiness in a world that I do know. So
Yeah.
for those of you who are at the precipice of this moment, it at a certain point, hopefully, and I really do hope you get, what some folks call this holy agitation. I really hope you do get it so that you know, if you think about a year from now, what do I want my life to look like? Do you want to be in the same place that you are right now? Or would you want to be further along and have like trusted yourself and trusted God, universe, right, to help you get to where you want to be? So I would say that's one thing to sort of be mindful of. Like at a certain point, what will dictate you moving forward is if it just costs too much for you to stay here. The other thing that I would say would be irresponsible of me if I did not say this. I always like to manage people's expectations because I wish people had done that for me. Is when you do take the leap. It's so empowering and it's amazing and you should celebrate it and it's all of those wonderful things. And it is not likely that you will take the leap and do this beautiful landing on the other side and get up to a round of applause and ta-da, and look, I did it. What is more likely to happen is you're going to step off and then you're going to tumble a little bit. You're going to get back up. You're going to be like pushed back. It's going to be a messy middle, like this place where you're not quite who you used to be anymore, but you're not quite who you're becoming yet. And you're like, I don't know who I am. I don't know this life. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm annoyed. I'm frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
Did I make the right decision? Should I have left? Should I, like there's all of that. It's part of the process. And because you're feeling it, please don't take it as a sign as you made the wrong choice. Please take it as a sign that you're growing and that you're going towards the next thing. And so those things like are, I would say the biggest things to be mindful of is like, yes, the pain of staying has got to outweigh the pain of going. And then when you go, you have to expect that there will be a little bit of process on the other side of that.
Yes. I was talking to a friend yesterday and I the way I like to put it is when I'm in these transitions in my life where kind of outgrowing the old and the new hasn't totally been established yet, everything just feels a little itchy. Like,
yes.
I like that word itchy because it's kind of like, it's not, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not so bad as to cause permanent harm or death, right? But also not quite comfortable. Like there's this sense of like, things are just not quite settled and not quite right. And it bugs me. Like, and you just, I agree with you, like leaning into that and just being like, okay, this is what it's going to feel like for a while, can really help. So you mentioned something about the cost of staying and looking back and trying to kind of assess what is the cost going to be if I stay exactly where I am. So tell me more about that. Like what aspects of the cost of staying should we be considering?
There are a couple of articles, and I will say this doesn't just have to apply to your profession. I could say it could apply to a job, a relationship. It could apply to a business that you've outgrown and maybe you need to do a different one. Like life is just so, right? It's not linear.
Yeah.
But I would say the cost specifically when it comes to career, these two articles that I love the most are one from Huffington Post, and it's like, this is what hating your job costs you. So if you're in a situation where it's just like gross and you're just tolerating it, it's all these physical symptoms. Like it literally compromises your physical health. Sleepless nights, stress, anxiety, depression, gut issues, like the list goes on and on and on, right? And then on the flip side of that, there's this other article that I adore in Business Insider that's like, studies show that people who love their jobs accumulate more wealth and they accumulate it faster than people who just even like their jobs. So if I love what I'm doing versus just even liking it, I will make X amount more. These are like millionaire, like rich people, right? Millionaires. So if you think about what it's costing you, and even on the one aspect we haven't mentioned is relational. Like I think about when I've been in a season and I didn't like my work and how much like complaining and how annoyed I was and like people around me being like, hey, do you realize you're talking about this again? Or what if you're like hating your work or just it's just not feeling good to you? And is that taking time away from how your quality time with your kids, or you're like, what is it costing you? Because it can't be that you're in the situation and not enjoying it and everything in life is fine, right? It's got to be costing you something. So I would look at it's impacting, quite honestly, likely your generational health and your wealth to be in a situation that is just not aligned with who you are to become, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point because most of us are terrible, first of all, at leaving work at work.
Yes.
But even if we are pretty good at compartmentalizing and walking out the door at 5 o'clock, there is still spillover from what we are experiencing 8 or 9 hours a day
Yeah.
to the rest of our lives. Like, I don't think there's really a way for that not to affect. I don't know. What do you think? You
I
think even the best
agree.
compartmentalizers can keep it separate totally?
No, not at all. Not at all. Like I've experienced someone who was really awesome at like at the end time, like 4:30 going home, but like that still came in the door with them. And I would say that's the case for all of us. There's this book I think called Happiness at Work that has a stat that says we spend the average adult will spend 90,000 hours of their life working. So that's the math of it.
Right.
Do you want to get to the end of your life and have spent those 90 hours that you can't get back, like having in like hate or disgust or just not fulfillment, like I
Right.
wouldn't, I would not have wanted to come to the end of my life and been like, oh, I hated my job all these years. Why didn't I try to do something else kind of thing?
Right. Right. Okay, so I want to change gears just a little bit and talk to the
Yeah.
person who is really unhappy in their current job or their current life.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like you said, this applies to so much more than just your job. Um, but they are unsure of what it is they really want to do. It's kind of
Yeah.
like, well, I could leave this job and go to another, but I don't know if I'm going to like that one anymore than this one because I
Yeah.
don't really know what I want to do, right? I don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily have anything that lights me up. Maybe they have gotten a degree in a field that they've never worked in and don't want to work in, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to that person who's just like, oh, okay, that's great. It all sounds great, but like, I have no idea what I want to do.
Yeah, I think it's equally important for that person to do the self-assessment. So even if you're not feeling friction where you are, like what's the numbness? Where's that coming from? Is there something underneath that? Um, have you been disappointed before and now you're just settling and you're not even realizing it? So that's why you're kind of like meh about everything, right? So understand why maybe you're feeling the way you're feeling, but then also it's still really important to understand what your strengths and your interests are. What are the things that move you? What are the things that piss you off? What are the things that make you cry? What are the problems you wish like, oh my gosh, why hasn't anyone solved this yet? Right? The answer is probably because you're the one that is to solve it. And so do that assessment. But the other thing I would say is you can't think your way to the next step. We can't pre-plan our way to the next step. There is some doing that you will have to do. And so that could look like research, just like they tell new get out there and do some market research, talk to your potential clients, see what have and how they talk about them. Do the same thing for your professional life. So maybe you make a list based on what your strengths and interests are of some jobs that seem interesting to you. Maybe you start having conversations with people who do those jobs. Maybe you shadow them for a little while and say, yeah, do I like this? Do I not like this? Maybe you just volunteer somewhere and say, like, I like this group of people. I don't like it. Like, get out there and start
Hmm.
testing the things that you could be involved in. And then eventually, what I really specifically like about the volunteer aspect is that you're also building experience that you could use for your resume if you were to need it. So, for example, in my
Yeah.
transition from a professional dancer to then my first role in workforce development, I was a coach, I was a career coach. And so I went into these folks who were taking these boot camps and I helped them apply what they learned in the classroom to then whatever new job that they wanted to do. And that transition period, when I started to help dancers with it, I was like coaching dancers, I was creating workshops and different content and experiences for them to really enhance their careers. I used all of that on my resume too, because I could not go into a new job and say, hey, I've taught ballet and tap and jazz and hip hop. And that's why I should be qualified enough to teach, to coach your folks. Like, no, I had to show evidence. I had to demonstrate my skills that I am in fact a coach. And the way I did that is through my own self work or through, like work that I had created, not necessarily had been paid by an employer to do. So One, again, to reflect, audit, but two, get out there, have conversations, and start trying things, because that's the only way you're really going to figure out like what feels the best for you.
Yeah, and I think it's worth saying that, you said 90,000 hours on average that we spend working.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's easy to think, okay, I don't want to spend those hours doing something I hate. But I
Yeah.
also think it's worth saying that spending those hours doing something you're just apathetic about, or
Yeah.
you are uninterested in, even if you don't necessarily hate it, is also so much less than what it could be. Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes we think like, oh, well, I don't hate it. It's just a job, right? Or we say things to ourselves like, every job has its downsides.
Yeah.
And that may be true,
Mm-hmm.
but
It is.
sometimes we talk ourselves into those things as a way of convincing ourselves to just stay put because it feels safer, don't we?
Yeah, to settle. I 100% agree with that. Thank you for calling that out. And I will say, just in case there's someone listening to this who's like, actually, my job is fine because it pays for me to do all the things I do really care about. I think that is okay too. I would say the
Mm-hmm.
point here is to not in every area of your life sort of just be tolerating the circumstances that you're in. There are people who say, you know what, I want to do this job. I'm good at it. I like the work, it's making a difference and it pays my bills. And with the money that I make, I get to go do this other thing in life that is so fulfilling to me and I just know I'm meant for. That is
Right.
totally fine. I would not say that is a
Yes.
wrong, there is no wrong model. I think the model, the example, the epitome of the thing that we're looking for is that, well, I'll speak for myself, that I'm looking for is that we have something in our lives that lights us up, that we are not going through
Yes.
life dimly lit or
Mm-hmm.
not lit at all, that we are moving through life with our lights fully on in some capacity, whether we're able to get that at work through our business or we're able to get that through volunteering, passion projects, something, nonprofits, whatever other mission driven work that you're doing. Just make sure that we're living a life with our lights fully turned on. I think that's the most important thing.
Yes. So paint me a picture of what that looks like. How do you know? Like, because I know some people are like, it's just my life. Like, this is the way my life has always been. Like, sure, it might be fun
Yeah.
to do some other things, but paint me a picture of what that looks like to feel like you are really living in your purpose and that, like you said, the
Mm-hmm.
lights are on and
Yeah.
things are good. Like, give me a sense of what that really looks like.
Yeah, I'm trying to find language for it. So in my corporate career, I led pretty large teams, and one of my favorite parts was like coaching my direct reports. And we always had these career conversations. There is something about, I'm trying to think, maybe even in the hiring process, that's probably a better example. I can think of moments where we post a role and, the role has all of the description in it, like this is what we're looking for. And folks can come in and their resume technically matches what's on the paper. Like they can tell a good story. But there's something about getting in the interview process with either me or hiring manager or other folks on the team where there is just I hate saying this because it might not be taken as seriously. There's just like a felt experience where um there's lip service but not an energy behind it. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's not, you can feel the energy in the room. You can feel the vibration even through a Zoom. Like you can tell, I don't know if it's from body language. I don't know if it's like tone of voice. I'm not sure what makes this energy come across in the way that it does, but there's just like a felt experience of like I could have had a V8. It's not quite
Mm-hmm.
there. But when someone comes in, and it's not that they have 100% matched the job description, when they come in with a light about the work, with innovative ideas about how to make it better, challenges of like how we're doing it now and how it could be different. This background that, quite honestly, a lot of folks that I've hired that have been like perfect for the roles, their background is like, you used to do what? And now you're trying to do what? But it just makes sense. Everything that they've done in the past is in service to what they could do for us. There is literally an energy about it. Like
Yeah.
you can just feel it. It just like, no, this is the perfect, this light is on for this person and this opportunity. And the same is true for all of our careers. Like, We can have off moments. We can have bad days. We can even have bad seasons. I can tell you that even in my work as a leader in the corporate space, there have been seasons in that corporate role where it was tough. It was just like excruciatingly fast moving and always changing and frustrating, but it was just still so right. So I wouldn't say that being in purpose or in alignment means that there is no friction or hard times. It just means you just know that you're exactly where you're supposed to be while you're there. But you can also, the reverse is true. Like when there's like a sustained sense, a sustained lull, sustained friction, sustained, like this is just not working anymore, a sustained apathy, sustained ickiness, itchiness, right?
Yes.
That is clear signal. Like the light is not on there.
Yeah. So what about the person who loves their job?
Yeah.
It lights them up. They enjoy going every day, except for the people that they work with. Like I can hear someone saying right now, I love my job. If I had a different boss, it'd be fantastic. What would you say to that person?
It depends. Are they saying, I want to move on, or are they saying, how can I stay here and enjoy the work even more?
Well, I think sometimes the question is, do I have to move on because of this boss? How do I stay here and still enjoy my job and like deal with the mess that is this person that's put in, in a supervisory role over me? Like, is the only way to get out of this to move on? Or can I find a way to be happy in this position because I love the job, even though this person who works in the office across the hall from me is ridiculous to deal with? Like, speak to that a little bit.
That's a really tricky, I think, situation to navigate. And here I'll speak from in my corporate career, I also led one of our affinity groups, our ERGs, for Black employees. And I can tell you that I know what it's like when folks are like, and I need to figure out a way to advocate for myself. So just like in a a personal relationship is probably the way to say it. When maybe what's the words what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say, I guess communication is probably what I would recommend here. So if you're loving your work, I would ask these questions. Is there a way to give direct feedback to my manager in a way that does not expose me to retaliation? Like you know the person that you're working with or for. And so is there a way to give the direct feedback? And by direct feedback, I mean, hey, I love the work that I do. I'm so excited to be a part of this team. However, it does not work for me when these things happen. Like I'm not getting enough feedback or whatever the thing is, the tone when the feedback is delivered. This actually specifically does not work for me. It would be better if could instead this thing happen. So if you're communicating in that way and nothing is happening, then seek support in other ways. Is there an affinity group? Is there an HRBP? Is there someone that you can say, hey, and make sure you're documenting all of this. CYA all the time. Then take okay, first step, you communicated, it didn't work. Then take it to the next level. Like, hey, I did this. I communicated this to my leader. No response. I'm still experiencing this type of thing in my work. It's making it very difficult for me to stay engaged and stay productive, right? It's compromising the work in these ways. Can you support me? So maybe there could be a mediated conversation, right? Like all of those things. If you've tried the entire line of escalation and there's still no improvement, then you really got to ask yourself a tough question and is it time for me to move on? But I would definitely encourage advocating for yourself. Try to change those conditions. You don't have to settle for them as is. But if you've advocated for yourself and nothing is happening, then, like we were saying before, you kind of got to weigh the cost. Is it worth me staying here? Or can I look for other ways to work?
Right. Okay, so I want you to kind of start wrapping up this conversation for us. I would love your top 2 or 3 pieces of wisdom for people who are contemplating a career change or just trying to figure out what what lights them up. Like, what are give us some little top takeaway nuggets that you love, that you want to pass on to our listeners.
Oh my goodness. Where
Yes.
do I even begin?
Maybe
I'm
I
like,
should have
there,
prepped you
yeah.
for that question.
There's so many things I could really say. So back to the whole self-assessment audit kind of piece, trying to figure out what's for me conversation. I definitely still strongly advocate for that, and maybe some resources I can share. I'm a huge fan of the Gallup Strength Finders test, like tell your top strengths. I really like that because there are a lot of folks, and myself, I was one of them, things that come really, really easy to us, we sort of dismiss as like not a thing when really it's like
Mhm.
gold. And so understand what those are. Continuous learning will always be your best friend in ways that isn't like trying to prove your worth. So I mean like books, podcasts, LinkedIn learnings, those
Mhm.
types of things. Some books that I definitely recommend that I found to be really fruitful. Believe Bigger by Marshawn Evans Daniels. Has kind of got like almost like a faith-based lens to purpose building. U-Turn by Ashley Stahl. Really great book on sort of how to pull out your values, like what's next for you, but in a way that is person-centered and honors your values and your strengths, and tells a story of how she was able to do it. And then there's one book that is not necessarily career-based, but tells a career story that I read in my 20s that always sticks with me, and that is not Believe Bigger. Big Magic, Creative Living Beyond Fear by Elizabeth Gilbert, who's the author of Eat, Pray, Love. And she tells a story of, sort of wanting to be a writer, how she made herself a writer, and it's like all of the nooks and crannies in between. So I think those are really, really fruitful reads for sure. And then in terms of another tidbit or takeaway, I mean, I think it's important who you surround yourself with. So like plant yourself in the
Mhm.
right communities, get the right support, whether that's a mentor, a coach, a friend, like a bot, whoever it is, like make sure that you have the right support as you're trying to stay engaged towards like this life that you're dreaming for yourself. And then the last thing I would say is you can. Like there's a lot of like fear, the facts of your situation, your feelings about your situation, all of that can really keep you stuck where you are, sort of believing this story that it's not ever going to get better, or it's too hard, it's not worth the energy to make it better, or even if you get to the next place, you're going to lose anyway. Like any of those stories that you're telling yourself, I would just encourage you not to let them win, and to just let you know that you can have whatever life that you want. Like it does not mean that it will be easy to get there. It will come with its challenges, but also where you are comes with its challenges too. So any way you splice it, you're going to be challenged. So you might as well be challenged going towards the thing that lights you up if you can. So I know that was a mouthful, but that's what I'll leave.
No, that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. Thank
Okay,
you.
so tell us how people can find you online, how they can work with you, who you accept as clients, and a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I have, I would say, where's the first places you can go? If you go to thepurposepost.com, I post all kinds of stories of, folks who are building their businesses and like the behind the scenes stories, like how they're monetizing it, their journeys, their nonlinear paths, all kinds of things are there. And then there's also a newsletter. We send these stories and all of my personal fumbles. I email to you there. If you'd like a resource, though, for those of you who might be considering self-employment, I have a self-employed starter kit. You can absolutely find it on thepurposepost.com, or you can just go directly to getmystarterkit.com. And it'll be there. And like the folks that I like to work with are typically folks who have like 15 plus years of experience. So they have like deep expertise. They basically know a little bit about themselves as a professional. Most of them have had some sort of leadership title, right? So they know what it's like to lead, and then also to maybe not have been led well. And now they're moving on to the next thing, either to build their own thing, or some of them, actually no, most of them are trying to build their own thing based on who they are now and the experiences that they've had. So if that sounds like you're sick of corporate culture, you're ready to tell yourself a new story and have a new life on your own terms, I'd love to support you.
Awesome. Well, we will put all of those links in the podcast notes, so that you can find them. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, look there. If you're listening on YouTube, check the video description. Shaté, thank you so much for being here with us and taking the time to have this conversation. Lots of
Thank you.
wisdom that you have learned through life, and I appreciate you taking the time to share it today with our listeners.
Thank you so much for having me, Alyssa. This was such a great combo, and I'm glad we finally made it happen. So I'm excited.
Yes, absolutely. I think there are a lot of people out there who will absolutely find this conversation very helpful.
I
And
hope
if you're
so.
listening today, thanks so much for taking the time to join us. Come back soon for another episode of Equilibrium X. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Equilibrium Echoes. If you would like to learn more about the podcast, visit www.coachingwithalyssa.com/podcast. And while you're there, book your free consultation and download the preview of my new book, Marriage is Hard and Other Lies I Believed. I'll see you in the next episode.